I don't know, Mado, did you?
We may proceed.
Recording in progress.
Greetings
and morning to everyone. In keeping with the tradition, I will now bow to my right and bow to my left. Having done so, I now request the delegates to observe a moment of silence for prayer or meditation. Thank you very much. Please allow me to remind delegates that the rules and the processes do apply. So honorable delegates, before we proceed, I would like to remind you of the following: that the virtual sitting constitutes a sitting of the National Council of Provinces, that the place of the sitting is deemed to be Cape Town, where the seat of the National Council of Provinces is, that delegates in the virtual sitting enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in the sitting of the National Council of Provinces, that for purposes of the quorum, all delegates who are logged onto the virtual platform shall be considered present, that delegates must always switch on their videos, that delegates should ensure that the microphones on their gadgets are muted and must always remain muted, that the interpretation facility is active, and that any delegate who wishes to speak must use the raise your hand function. Honorable delegates, in accordance with Council Rule 2471, there will be no notice of motion or motions without notice. Honorable delegates, before I proceed to questions, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the Minister and Deputy Ministers from the Peace and Security Cluster, especially the Minister of Home Affairs, Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, and Deputy Minister of State Security, and all the special delegates. Further, I would like to make the following remarks: that the time for reply by the ministers to a question is 5 minutes, that only 4 supplementary questions are allowed per question, that a member who has asked the initial question will be the first to be afforded an opportunity to ask a supplementary question, that the time for asking a supplementary question is 2 minutes, and that the time for reply to a supplementary question is 4 minutes, and that supplementary question must emanate from the initial question asked. I now call on the Minister of Home Affairs to respond to question 155. This question is on investigations into permanent residency. The question comes from Honorable Mtetwa and is directed to the Minister of Home Affairs. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson, my colleagues, Deputy Minister of State Security and Deputy Minister of DERCO, honorable members of the NCOP permanent and permanent delegates. Chairperson, in answering the question of the honorable member, yes, the answer is yes. The investigation on how the permanent residency of the mentioned people was obtained has been finalized, and yes, 5 officials have been suspended and are going through a DC process. One of the officials took us to Labour Court in a bid to stop the process of DC, but the Labour Court dismissed the case. If I'm not mistaken, it's 2 or 3 weeks ago. So the DC process is going to proceed in this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We now proceed to Honorable Mtetwa, the first supplementary question. Honorable Mtetwa.
Oh, thank you very much, Minister, for your clear response in this matter. But Minister, I've got to also, in line with this question, Honorable Minister, I think you might be aware that there has been numerous media reports these days that Prophet Bushiri and his wife have been in this country a few times since they violated their bail condition and fled the country. Has the department minister looked into this matter and verified the accuracy or otherwise of these media reports? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mtetwa. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Member, the general rule is that those who accuse must provide proof. The media reports you're talking about, which emanated from City Press, they did phone me on Saturday before publishing their story. And I told them that as far as we are concerned, we do not have any evidence of that. Subsequent to the publishing of their story, I'm sure you heard, the authority that is responsible in this regard, the Hawks, also issued a statement. Now, Chairperson, it looks like it's becoming common for the media to send the country on the merry-go-round to prove things that do not exist. I may dare say you are aware that the government is also being pushed to prove the birth of 10 babies who were never born. I'm 100% sure they were never born. But we are being asked to prove that they were, how do you do that? How do you prove something that has never happened? Now we are being called upon to prove that Bushiri came to the country 3 times. I don't understand this type of journalism anymore, where people who come with accusations cannot provide proof and say, hey, look here, this is what happened here and there. Now, this is the same story, as far as I'm concerned, as the 10 babies who never existed and who were never born. I'm 100% sure of that.
Thank you.
Chairperson, unmute.
The second supplementary question comes from Honorable W.A.S. Okam. Honorable Okam.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Minister, maybe tongue-in-cheek, maybe the Bushiris came to South Africa again to look for those 10 babies that nobody can find. Honorable Minister, as it was said now, it emerged that in the media that Shepherd Bushiri has returned to South Africa several times. Now, whether that is true or not needs to be investigated, and the facts will testify to that effect, whether it happened or not. We note that at this stage that you deny this having occurred. But this brings me to the question, if we look at the whole thing surrounding the Bushiris and 5 people already being suspended by your department or in your department, it actually is testimony to the shambles that is going on in your department. And it brings me to the question that, let's say, for example, it gets proven that the Bushiris actually did come back to South Africa, maybe on a false or a second passport, or whatever the means might be that they might have been able to come back to South Africa. And noting your department's mandate of regulate immigration to ensure security, that will be a big breach of that security if they did come back and come in and out and they have not been arrested. Would you agree that if that is the case, that it happened, that strong action needs to be taken and that it is a testimony of a poor managed department? And will you resign if that is proven, Honorable Minister? Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister.
Honorable Okam, your joke that maybe Bushiri came in to look for the babies. I want to tell you that even God won't find those babies because they were never born. So even Prophet Bushiri cannot do anything like that. Now, on the issue that the department is in shambles on this issue of permanent residence, etc., I did not hide this matter, that there are problems. That's why in the National Assembly, I announced a team which has already been working for 3 months, a team led by the former Director General in the presidency, Dr. Lubisi, to review all the applications of visas and permits that were issued since 2004. The permanent residence permits like this one, the naturalizations, the study permits, the business visas, even visas of people who are retired, retirement visas, spousal visas, all of them are being reviewed from 2004. And why did I choose 2004? That is the year in which the Immigration Act came into effect. And why did I do this? If the department was in shambles, we wouldn't have known. It is because we have got a very active anti-corruption unit. And when they are doing their anti-corruption work, they discovered that 2/3 of all the complaints they are investigating emanate from permits like this one, 2/3 of that. Then I said, no, let's investigate finally to find out what's happening. And that team is on. It consists of investigators. It consists of people who understand governance. And they've just submitted their preliminary report, which of course, if it's preliminary, I won't make public. Now, a department that is in shambles will not be able to do all those things. Now, your assumption about somebody resigning, if it's ever proven that Bushiri ever came into the country, all that the people are alleging, the people are alleging this, all they have to do is to provide proof and say, here's Bushiri has entered here and all that. Now to chase us, to send us on a will-win chase, chasing something that nobody's providing evidence for. That's why I gave the analogy of these newborn babies. It's unfair to the state to spend resources checking around something that is likely not to have happened. Yesterday, I was listening to the lawyer of Bushiri on SAFM, and he said, this is rubbish to imagine that he can take chance and come here. Of course, people dismiss that because they want to believe the report on City Press. The onus lie on the writers of that report to give proof to you so that we no longer make assumptions and we have got the proof that it actually happened. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. The next supplementary question, which is the third supplementary question, comes from Honorable Mukause. Honorable Mukause.
Thank you, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. Minister of Home Affairs, when Prophet Bushiri left the country, you also said it's inaccurate to say some officials were involved in his escape. You have said it a number of times. Today, you are still dismissing reports that he has been in and out of this country. It's a fact, Minister, that would have never happened or been possible without the help of Home Affairs officials. Are you at some point, Minister, not failing this department by forever dismissing reports and facts that are out there? Are there any investigation thereafter, the reports that are all over? Because it's a fact, Minister, you are going to come back here with a different view next time. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Honorable Mukause, let's separate two things here. Nobody ever denied that Bushiri escaped out of this country. On the contrary, a team led by military intelligence and state security and police, in other words, a team led by the Minister of Defense and the Minister of Police with their respective departments, which includes Home Affairs, sat down to investigate this matter. And I'm sure you are aware that the Hawks, who are leading that team, made a statement that they will never release the results of that investigation because it's a matter that is going to go to court. So at no stage have we ever denied the fact that Bushiri has escaped and officials might have helped him. I don't know, honorable member, where I ever said no official helped them. It's clear that he has been held by somebody, whether it's in Home Affairs or police or what. State officials might have helped Bushiri, and the Hawks at the appropriate time will give the information. The second issue, which I don't want you to mix with that one, is this story in CD Press. All I am saying is that we do not have evidence of that story. Even the Hawks released information that they don't have that evidence. It's just a story that he came 3 times and it ends there. So all I'm saying is that it's unfair for us to prove something which the accuser is not giving evidence. When you make an accusation, you must put evidence in front of us and say, this thing has happened and these are the facts. At the moment, nobody has got such facts. So what do you want us to do?
Thank you very much. The fourth supplementary question and the last supplementary question in this regard is a question from Honorable X Ngwezi. Honorable Ngwezi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Minister and colleagues. I would like to know from the Minister whether he is aware of the extent of the problem of fraudulent permits in the country, especially those issued by the officials from this department. And if not, why? And if so, whether the department has plans and the capacity to review permanent residence permits issued over the years to eliminate fraudulent permits in this category. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Honorable member, I'm puzzled. I've just answered that question exactly. I'm sure you're aware, Chairperson, I've answered it. I've told the member that I'm aware because we've got a very strong anti-corruption unit in the department. And the anti-corruption unit reported to us that 2/3 of the cases of corruption that they are investigating have to do with permits. It is for this reason that more than 3 months ago, I put up a team of 5 people, as I've said. It is headed by the former DG in the presidency, Dr. Lubisi. That team, their job is to review all permits that were ever issued within the Republic of South Africa since 2004. And I've mentioned here permanent residence permit, naturalization, business permit, study visas, even old age pension visas. I've mentioned that. We've put that team, and it is busy doing work. That team was appointed because we are aware that there is a problem, honorable member. I could not have appointed that team if I was oblivious to the problems in that regard. Thank you.
Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Ngwezi, on what question are you raising now?
No, Honorable Chair, the second part to this question, which he has answered, is that does the minister think that the department has capacity to deal with this problem of the fraudulent permits in the country? It's not like I didn't hear that he had answers the first part.
Yes,
now the second part is that
Ngwezi,
does the minister think the department has the capacity to deal with this problem?
Yes, because we have a responsibility to avoid what we're trying to do now, to have a separate discussion with the minister on the sidelines, as it were. We will proceed to the next question. And the next question is question 146. The question is on progress with connectivity challenges. Question has been raised by I.M. Sileku and is directed to the Minister of Home Affairs. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chair, as I said in this House 2 weeks ago, during the budget speech of the Department of Home Affairs, I said these connectivity problems is indeed the original sin in the Department of Home Affairs. On a daily basis, we deal with this matter and we are doing a lot of things. One of the things we have done is that maybe let me say our solutions are divided into two. Number one, what do you do with mobile trucks, mobile units that go all over the country to give people home affairs services? And secondly, what do you do with static offices all over the country, all the 412 home affairs offices? So on the issue of mobile trucks, we have got 100 of them and we wish to increase them. So we have connected them with 4G LTE connectivity so that they will be able to be deployed in various areas. The reason, Chairperson, is that our trucks depends on network connectivity, MTN, Vodacom, etc. And so in areas where there's no connectivity, 4G will help. But we've realized that even the 4G doesn't work very well in rural areas. So in the trucks that we deploy to rural areas, we have inserted a V satellite units on them, and they are working very well. We are also doing a daily monitoring. That means the IT section is doing a daily monitoring of the system to see where there are connectivity problems. And every morning, the results of that monitoring are given to provincial managers of home affairs, so that if there is any problem or any problem that is or it's suspected that any problem might happen, they might have to look for alternative means. We have also set in generators, because when there is load shedding, then there's no connectivity in home affairs. So we have put up generators in our offices to try and deal with this matter. The department has also just recently appointed a very experienced CIO, the Chief Information Officer, to come and help us deal with this matter. And he's starting work on the 1st of July. That is in less than 2 weeks' time. The department is also in discussion with National Treasury to look for alternative network solutions that will ameliorate these network challenges. Thank you very much. The impact of this connectivity, as the question raises, on the 30-day registration of birth, is that, Chairperson, it's our policy that all children must register within 30 days of birth. At the moment, we've reached about 70% of that, because we depend on parents bringing the children. But now it is not much impacted by this, because we are able to issue birth certificates manually if the systems are down. When systems are down, they affect only live capture system, like the smart ID and passports. Otherwise, birth certificates are not very much impacted. And also, we have installed systems in hospitals such that some hospitals can give you a birth certificate before the baby goes home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. The first supplementary question comes from Honorable Sileku. Honorable Sileku.
Mandibulele sihlalo, mandibulele nakumphathiswa ngencazelo. Honorable Minister, although the Department of Home Affairs has devoted resources to ensure that all births are timelessly registered and that no child is left behind in South Africa, the Department of Home Affairs continues to be plagued by network downtimes issues. Just yesterday, in an article in the Cape Argus, CETA was quoted saying, CETA is not to blame for the network downtime that causes Department of Home Affairs offices to go offline. The fact is that Home Affairs bought the lowest type of network connectivity service. So, Mphathiswa, as you have said, this is an ongoing problem in Home Affairs. For how long are ordinary South Africans going to be deprived of their right when it comes to the issuing of birth certificates, because the department is failing or is struggling to deal with the issue of connectivity in this country? Thank you very much, Chair.
Honorable Minister.
Chairperson, I've got no intention to get involved in a mudslinging exercise with CETA officials. I've mentioned the issue here in the budget speech. I've mentioned today that we're engaging with Treasury. Now, the honorable member is quoting what CETA said in the Cape Argus as if that is the gospel truth, but I'm not going to get involved with that mudslinging. It won't help us. We are looking for solutions for this problem. And as far as I'm concerned, we've engaged Treasury, and I won't be able to give you details of what we are discussing with them until they respond to us. All I can say is that, as I've said, every day we are trying to deal with this matter of connectivity. And I've told you, Honorable Member, you are quoting the issue of birth, and I've told you that issue does not impact negatively on birth because we can issue birth certificate manually, and we are doing so almost every day where systems are down. Because a birth certificate is not like an ID or it's not like a passport. It's issued on the spot. It's not like you go back into the department to check. Any child or any person, I mean, any child who is born in a hospital can go home with a birth certificate. 2 weeks ago, I was helping the MEC for Health in Limpopo on vaccinations. We also deployed Home Affairs trucks there. All the people who came, all the parents who came to take a birth certificate for their babies, they left home with those birth certificates. That is exactly what's happening on an everyday basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. The next question, second supplementary question, comes from Honorable Bartlett. Honorable Bartlett.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Good morning to all, and to the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, thank you for your response. In view of these challenges, Minister, in view of the challenges, has the department managed to conduct a thorough assessment in terms of what caused these challenges? What are the mechanisms to resolve this? And do we have technicians monitoring the system on a 24-hourly basis? And will it be possible for them to monitor across Home Affairs offices across the country? Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister.
Yes, Honorable Member, as I've said, we are seized with this problem every day because Home Affairs means IT. Other departments can sometimes function without IT, but never Home Affairs. Our name is IT. So for that reason, we look at this problem on a daily basis. As I've said when I was answering the question, we've got a team of IT inside the department, which is going to be joined by an experienced CIO in 2 weeks' time. But that team on everyday basis look at this matter and report back to provincial managers for them to know what's happening. But about 18 months ago or so, we have opened a war room at Centurion, at the CETA headquarters, whereby all these companies that give us this IT, because the IT is provided by private companies, like IBM, EOH, etc., we put them together. We even called their CEOs to sit with us in the whole room to find problems, I mean, to give us solutions to these problems. Sometimes it works for 2 weeks, and at other times it starts all over again. That's why then we went to Treasury and said, no, this method of getting IT through other means, through state technology agency, rather than going directly to take responsibility. Can you make sure that via the PFMA, you find a way to allow us to do that? That's where we are, but on everyday basis, this system is monitored, Honorable Member. I can assure you of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. We now go to the third supplementary question from Honorable AMAP De Bruin. Honorable De Bruin. You can try and speak a bit loud, Honorable Member, and speak to the speaker. Yes, let's try again.
Am I audible now, Chairperson?
That's better.
Is that better? Okay. Thank you, Chairperson and Honourable Minister. In the age of technology, we all know the importance of bandwidth, connectivity, and proper support. Why is it that this department, as crucial as Home Affairs, still believes that it can skimp on spending on these necessary infrastructure and services? And why is Home Affairs still subscribed to the lowest bronze service and support packages for CETA? And when will you realize that spending more on decent service delivery packages like CETA's platinum services will resolve most, if not all of the connectivity issues and service deliveries at the Department of Home Affairs. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
I think you are assuming that we are doing that exactly because the person who made that story did not give you the whole picture. And I've just said, I don't think I must use this session on a mudslinging exercise with the person who gave that information publicly. That we are affiliating to the smallest band without giving the whole story of what's happening there. I think honorable members have to say, as I've said and repeatedly, that we eventually looked into Treasury to help us. If we are lying, they will put so in writing and say, no, Minister, this is not correct. This is the correct state of affairs. And they will come back to you and tell you that we're wrong. But for the moment, to start debating something that is still being looked at on the basis of half-baked information is unfair to us. And I don't want to get involved in that mudslinging. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. The next question, which is the fourth supplementary question, comes from Honorable Arnold. Honorable Arnold.
Chairperson, it's Mokause. I'll be taking the question on behalf of the party.
Okay.
Minister, it's a fact that wherever you go, you leave behind a dysfunctional department. The Department of Health is in a mess because of your splendid incompetence. And now the Department of Home Affairs, perhaps in the worst shape ever. The queues are long. Issuing of key documents takes forever. And now the systems are down. And there's no alternative at all. Are you aware that in rural areas, for an example, in the Northern Cape, Kuruman, people queue from as early as 3 o'clock for death certificate, only to be told 10 o'clock in the morning that the system is down. And the very same satellite trucks that you are speaking about, few days ago, the one in Kuruman had to be returned from Postmansburg because the systems were down. Truly and honestly, Minister, have you considered throwing the towel, or do you still think that you are capable in turning things around elsewhere in government? This is unacceptable, Minister, for you forever not having political will to service the people of South Africa.
Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chairperson, I don't know whether I must engage with a member who has just decided to insult me on things that have got no basis at all. These are just insults. It is a feeling. But Chairperson, he mentioned the issue of death certificate. At no stage did anybody fail to be buried because Home Affairs did not issue a death certificate. Even Muslims who sometimes bury somebody 5 hours after death were able to issue death certificates for them if it's the issue of death certificate. If it's the issue of connectivity, I can't keep on repeating the same story again and again and again about what's happening and what we are trying to do. But as for the member believing that he must insult me, that's her choice. And I don't want to get engaged in that. Thank you.
And the next question is
on a point of order.
What is the point of order?
Chairperson of the NCOP, when ministers comes to answer questions either in the NA or NCOP, they must not sweep questions under the carpet and then claim that we are insulting them. There's no way that I've insulted the minister.
Point
we
of
are
order,
speaking
Chair.
about the incapability of this
point of
department
order, Chair.
and the lack of political leadership of Minister.
Point of order, Chair.
Yeah, okay, let's hear what the point of order is, Honorable Mtetu.
But Chairperson, there cannot be a point of order on top of the point of order.
No, Chair. It's the fact that the minister has been insulted, and actual Chair, you should have protected the minister in terms of this. Therefore, you can't allow another platform again for the minister to be insulted in the same platform. No, that's my point.
The problem that we have, honorable members, is that at times the atmosphere gets heated a bit, and instead of responding and conducting the debate in a way that provides space for everybody to express himself or herself, as ought to be the practice, we then raise points that have got no relation whatsoever to a point of order. Let's accept robust debates for what they are, and allow space for ministers and the delegates themselves, as well as everybody else, to have space to express themselves. Let's not limit debate. Let's engage, and if it needs be, let the debate be as robust as it can be. So we will then move ahead, honorable members. Once again, a plea for calmer minds and for tolerance. So we'll move to the next question, which is question 156. And this question is on COVID-19 vaccination for foreign nationals. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chair and honorable members, the honorable member will realize that the issue of vaccines is a terrain of the National Department of Health. However, having been there myself and now presently belonging to the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Vaccines, I can confirm that people are not excluded on the basis of nationality when health authorities embark on vaccination programs to combat communicable diseases. I'm not talking about COVID-19 only. There are many communicable diseases in the country, like measles, TB, etc., etc. For all of which we have got an expanded program on vaccination. When you go out to vaccinate, you don't choose nationalities of people, especially if it's a communicable disease, because if you do so, you'll be working in reverse. For instance, if you say you want herd immunity and you must vaccinate 67% of the population in order to get herd immunity, that 67% means 67% of people who are found in a particular geographic area, regardless of their nationality. So if you include other nationalities on that basis, then you simply won't reach your herd immunity. And those who are not immunized will simply infect the others. So it doesn't help. Actually, Chairperson, this is a universal principle. That's why, as I'm speaking here, South African nationals in other countries are actually being vaccinated on a daily basis. They are not pushed aside. Now, the modalities of how you vaccinate everybody, even those who are from other countries, the National Coronavirus Command Council, Central Command Council, has actually decided to put up a team of officials chaired by the Secretariat of the NCC to look into the various modalities of this question of how do you vaccinate people who may not necessarily having South African IDs as such. But the principle is that you don't exclude people on the basis of nationality on an issue like vaccination. And we believe other countries are doing the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary question comes from Honorable N. Ngozi. Honorable Ngozi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. And thank you to the Minister for this elaborate response. Honorable Minister, whether the information you have provided is being communicating sufficiently with South Africans to reactionary elements causing confusion in our communities, and whether South African citizens in other countries are also getting these life-saving vaccines, Honorable Minister. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Yes, Honorable Chair, we I'm just here mentioning the policies from the Department of Health, in which I was there long ago. I still remember Limpopo specifically. When we want to get percentage of people vaccinated, it's usually more than 100%. They'll give you 110, 120%. And when we investigate why, it's because the baseline, the denominator, is on the basis of statistics, which they get from a particular municipality. But when they go on the ground to immunize, they find other people who do not necessarily appear on the database, but they vaccinate them for the reasons that I've mentioned. And that's why they end up reaching 120%. And I'm saying it's universal because I know South Africans who are in other countries are busy also being vaccinated. So we can't be the ones who then start discriminating, because as I've already said, it will also be counterproductive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next supplementary question comes from Honorable Ngwezi. Honorable Ngwezi.
Thank you very much, Nyambos. I think that, Honorable Minister, in the response you have given, South Africans who are in other countries, majority of them are documented. They are in those countries legally. And the majority of the foreign nationals who are here, some of them are not documented, and that causes a problem in terms of the budget. Now, I would like to know whether do we have enough budget to vaccinate everybody who is here in the country, even if that person is not budgeted for, because a person who is here illegally, I think that is not in the statistics of South Africans. Therefore, the budget is allocated based on the number of people who are in the country. So I would like to know whether do we have enough budget to actually cater for that. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chair, I can just give you the policies of this department. We are speaking about a disease here. This is a disease and it's a communicable one, which moves from one person to the other. And the purpose of vaccination is to vanquish that disease, is to ensure that it no longer occurs among human beings, so that they don't infect each other. Diseases won't know who's documented, who's not. Let me be clear on that. A disease does not know about documentation or nationality or who's documented or not. It harasses and ravasses everybody. And if you want to vaccinate, to eradicate it, you have got to vaccinate everybody. The issue of whether there is budget or not, that really Treasury must answer. But the principle in the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Vaccine, to which I belong, and the National Coronavirus Central Command Council, is that everybody ought to be vaccinated. And I'm mentioning that in other countries, I don't know under what conditions, whether they exclude those who are documented or not, but they vaccinate everybody on the basis of the things I've mentioned, that we are dealing with the communicable diseases. It does not know borders, it does not know documentation, it does not know nationalities, it just affects human beings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next supplementary question is the third supplementary question from Honorable Zanda Mela. Honorable Zanda Mela.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, what is the status of refugees in the country? Are we having refugee camps? If yes, does the camps comply to COVID-19 protocols? And are the refugees in those camps being vaccinated? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Minister.
This is a new question altogether, but I'm prepared to answer it. There are no refugee camps in the Republic of South Africa. As a matter of policy, you'll be aware that from 1994, South Africa took a deliberate decision that anybody who comes here and becomes a refugee must integrate in our communities. It's not like other countries where there are formal refugee camps, where United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee plays a role and other international NGOs plays a role. South Africa does not have refugee camps. But having said so, you said, what is the status of a refugee? A person who earns refugee status in South Africa has got all the rights of South Africans except a right to vote. So any right that we have got, a person who has got refugee status, who has been given a Section 24 permit, has got those rights. The only right he doesn't have is a right to vote. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question, thank you very much, Minister. Last supplementary question comes from Honorable Sileku. Honorable Sileku.
Mandibulele Sihlalo. Mphathiswa ndiyavumelana nawe kwaye ndiyakungqinela. I-COVID-19 ayijongi ukuthi usuka kweliphi ilizwe. Ngoba ithatha nabani na, whether unazo impepha okanye awunampepha. Kodwa mna ke benzawuzama ubuza mphathiswa njengoba umphathiswa ebesetshilo ukuthi wonke umuntu ufuneka efumene ugonywa ngoba lento iyasuleleka. Ingaba isebe likamphathiswa lingakwazi ukusebenzisa le nkqubo yokuqinisekisa ukuthi aba bantu bagonywayo bangenazo impepha bayakwazi ukuba nazo ezi mpepha ukuncedisana nesebe ngoba siyazi isebe liyasokola ekuqinisekiseni ukuthi wonke umuntu osuka kwamanye amazwe ukuthi abe nempepha. So ngaba le nkqubo yogonyo njengoba kugonywa wena unempepha ungenampepha, ingabe isebe liza kusebenzisa eli thuba ukuqinisekisa ukuthi abantu abangenazo impepha qinisekisa ukuthi banazo ezi mpepha. Enkosi mphathiswa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Indeed, Honorable Member, we will do that. That's why we choose this special team to find out what modalities are followed for people who might not be having no papers. And of course, if we come across people with no papers, we take use of every opportunity. But let me tell you the practical problem, Honorable Member. And I've said this many times and people don't seem to be believing it. This issue of being undocumented, they believe it's a deliberate action by Home Affairs. Many people who are not documented do not want to be documented, believe you me. And it might be that people believe this is outrageous, but this is true. You may remember that in 2008, when the Zimbabwean economy started collapsing, lots and lots of Zimbabweans rushed to South Africa, and the refugee reception centers could not deal with them. The Home Affairs Department at that time, in 2010, went to Cabinet to ask to give Zimbabwe exemption permit or special permit for all those people. The other group was Lesotho special permit. In the case of Lesotho special permit, they gave 92,000 permits. When they were due for renewal, I got a phone call from the Minister of Home Affairs there, who said, no, we must increase it to 200,000. I said, no, but only 92 people had applied and we've issued them and we are just renewing for .92. He said, no, Minister, at the time you gave 92, there were many people, but they were not prepared to come forth because they thought they will be deported back to the country. So they went into hiding. They did not take the special permits that were being given. So in other words, they were running away from documentation. And that's why I'm making this statement. And I know in hospitals, when people are sick, they go to hospitals. We don't turn them away on the basis of documentation. They are actually given medication and their details are written down so that they get followed up and they get given invoices, etc. Most of the time, the address they give you is false. It's a false address, it does not exist, and you will never find them again. So these are the problems that we are dealing with on a daily basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. The next question is question 141. 141, and this question is on securing South Africa-Mozambique border. This question is from Honorable Detroit and is directed to the Minister of Home Affairs. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chairperson, the conflict in Mozambique, whether you call it war or conflict or insurgency, is a very serious matter. It is far beyond the capacity of the Department of Home Affairs to deal with. So the department that is dealing with that is the Department of Defense, the South African National Defence Force, and the military intelligence. They are the ones who are dealing with this matter on a daily basis, because we simply do not have any capacity to stop insurgents who are armed, because you are aware that in Home Affairs, we don't have any arms whatsoever. But in as far as our role in the BMH is concerned, the Department of Home Affairs was designated by a cabinet as far back as 2013 to lead the establishment of the Border Management Authority. And as you are aware, during my budget speech, I even thanked this honorable house for having helped to unlock the BMA bill that was stuck here for 3 years, and it was unlocked. And in July 2020, the president was able, was able to assent and sign it into operation. And so we are busy at the present moment implementing the Border Management Authority. In terms of what the president has signed, we're able to appoint an acting commissioner. We are now in the process of appointing a permanent commissioner and 2 deputy commissioners and the staff for the Border Management Authority. So the work of establishing the Border Management Authority is on. The Border Management Authority will take over all the functions of the departments, about 6 departments that are found at the borders. The Department of Home Affairs will work as coordinator, and there's going to be an Inter-Ministerial Committee which controls what happens there. That committee is going to be chaired by the Minister of Home Affairs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. The first supplementary question is the question from Honorable F.S. Detroit. Honorable Detroit.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Minister, thank you for the comprehensive answer. And as we now well know, with the hunger and the unemployment and the violence, the lack of medical services, hundreds, if not thousands of people are said to be crossing into South Africa illegally on a monthly basis from Mozambique. I hear that you say that you're busy with that BMA, but have your department's budget been adjusted, and how has it been adjusted to provide for expenses towards securing and protecting the border between South Africa and Mozambique, since traditional smuggle routes and routes that were traditionally allegedly used for illegal activities are being obstructed as a result of the persisting violence in North Mozambique, and new pastures may be sought in South Africa. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Minister.
Yes, the adjustment that has been made was that initially the budget for the Border Management Authority was only 28 million. It has been readjusted to 120 million, because under the Border Management Authority, we are intending to hire border guards. So what we have done, the perimeter, the land, the borderline around South Africa, the land borderline, not the sea, is about 4,772 kilometers in length. The sea one is about 3,900. But let me go to the land one. We have actually divided it into 10 segments, and we have looked at each and every segment where there are problems. And out of these 10 segments, we have identified 4 where the issues, honorable members, you are saying, are actually happening. And because I don't have segments here with me, but if my memory serves me very well, one of the segments is the area called Mangunzi between Swaziland right up to the Indian, from Swaziland right up to Indian Ocean. That is the border between us and Mozambique. It's about 76 kilometers in length. That's where most of the smuggled cars go through. We have targeted that area. The others, of course, is the border between us and Mozambique and between us and Zimbabwe, which we are targeting. The border between us and Botswana, for instance, is the longest at 1,500 kilometers, but we hardly ever experience problems there. The other border that is very long is between us and Namibia. It's about 850 kilometers, but we hardly ever experience problems there. And the others, the second longest is between us and Lesotho, because the whole perimeter around Lesotho is a border with South Africa. It's about 950 kilometers, but Lesotho, you know, is in our belly. So we deal with them in a different manner that we deal with other countries. But we are looking at those segments, honorable member, in implementing a BMA, the problematic segments, and that's where we are going to deploy resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. The Second supplementary question is from Honorable Ryder. Honorable Ryder.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, Minister. Minister, the threat from ISIS and its affiliated organizations is not only coming out of Mozambique, but it already exists within our borders. In July 2020, a kidnapping syndicate with links to ISIS was smashed by SAPS and 5 foreign nationals were arrested. We've heard of the bombings in Verulam and the arrests around that. Minister, we'd like to understand the scale of the threat from within our borders. Can you tell us, understanding what you said about you're not armed and you don't have the weaponry, but can you tell us how many foreign nationals are under surveillance in South Africa, or what your department is doing to address these threats from within our borders? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Honorable Member, the Department of Home Affairs has got no right or any power. It's not empowered by any legislation to do surveillance on people. The departments that do that is the state security and military intelligence. And I don't think they will outline in public who they are doing surveillance on. But we don't have that capacity, nor do we have any legislative measure to do surveillance on people. We depend on state security and military intelligence and other intelligence organizations, other state security organizations like the Hawks, for instance, but Home Affairs doesn't do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next question is the third supplementary question from Honorable Dango. Honorable Dango.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you for providing clarity on this matter. In addition to ensuring that borders are secure, what role should communities along the borders of South Africa play to give support to the work of government in this regard, and will government engage such communities? Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister.
Honorable Member Dango, I think this is a very good question. The situation now is completely different from the situation that was pertaining during the apartheid era, where farmers around the border were armed in order to stop insurgency in South Africa. At the present moment, I can assure you, communities play a different role. For instance, in our experience, we have learned that there are many communities who are the same community, but are divided by a border. So when they cross the border to and fro, they won't regard themselves as breaking any laws. Such border communities exist, and I can give you an example. Chilila Mulomo in Botswana, where the same community is divided by a border. Remember that some borders are natural borders, like the Limpopo River or the Caledon River in Lesotho. But in most of the Southern African areas, the borders are just imaginary lines which were not even drawn by ourselves. So they were able to divide people who belong to the same community. So for that reason, we have started a project at the borders, whereby these border communities are given special permits just to cross to and fro. You may find that people buy bread the other side, which in terms of government laws is regarded as a different country because it's across the border. To them, it's just a convenient place to buy bread. I remember when members of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs paid a visit, an oversight visit to our border with Eswatini. They were surprised when they found a very small fence and with a small gate where people just going through. It's because they come in and buy bread and go back. They regard themselves as same communities. So such communities, we deal with them differently and we give them such documents, and we have just completed in Chilila Mulomo, and we are going to continue in other areas where we identify such communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The last supplementary question, which is the fourth supplementary question, comes from Honorable M.O. Mukause. Honorable Mukause. Honorable Mukause. Last supplementary question. Honorable Mukause is not there. So we'll move on. The next question is question 157. And this question is a question on the number of refugees and or impact on service delivery. The question comes from Honorable Shaik and is directed to the Minister of Home Affairs. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chairperson, to date, there are 128,000 people who ever were registered in South Africa as refugees since the Refugee Act came into operation in 1998. But at the present moment, the people who are actively on the register as refugees, that means who actively deserve international protection, are 76,723. Now, the question is asking about the criteria. How do you, how does somebody earn a refugee status? Chairperson, the criteria are established in Section 3 of the Refugee Act. Now, Section 3 of the Refugee Act is the domestication of the United Nations Convention of 1951. And that convention is very unambiguous about who qualifies. It says any country that is a signatory to that convention, if somebody rushes to that country and asking for asylum and to become a refugee, if that person comes from a country where there is war, then that country is that person is deserving. Or where there are natural disasters, like we have just seen volcanoes in DRC. If somebody runs away and crosses a border to look for refuge because he's running away from a volcano, that is a natural disaster. Or if the person is persecuted for their political, their religious, and their cultural practices, or even their sexual orientation, if the person can provide proof that in their country of origin they are being persecuted for those, then they stand to gain refugee status. They are given a Section 24 permit. Now, the question as to whether there is any way in which the methods that we use to monitor their movements. There is a committee called the Standing Committee on Refugee Affairs. It's not a parliamentary committee, Chairperson. It's a committee on refugee affairs which is appointed by the Minister of Home Affairs. It's called SCRA, S-C-R-A. Every 4 years, it reviews these permits, whether the person still needs international protection, meaning whether the criteria that are mentioned in the United Nations Convention, whether they still apply. For instance, if the war is over in your country, then SCRA will review and say, look, the war is over, we are taking away your refugee status, in which case you are now requested to depart the Republic. If, on the other hand, the conditions are still there, then SCRA will renew your refugee status for another 4 years, in which case it comes and reviewed in the next 4 years. The last part of the question about whether departments will endeavor to work with other departments to quantify the impact of foreign nationals on service delivery. Now you realize, Honorable Member, that in the National Assembly, some members during the debate on the State of the Nation address did ask the President a question more or less along this whole line about the impact. The President then established an Inter-Ministerial Committee, which is chaired by myself, co-chaired by myself, together with the Minister of Labor and Employment, Minister Thulas Nxesi. The committee is looking at things like the job market, business opportunities, social services, as they relate to migrants. We have now got a lot of experts and academics who are advising us, who are giving us statistics in this regard, and we are busy putting things together, even looking at what legislation needs to be changed. And this committee, when it has finalized, it will go to cabinet to get further, to present their findings and get further instructions from cabinet in this regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. The first supplementary question comes from Honorable S. Shaik. Honorable Shaik.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. And Honorable Minister, thank you for your detailed response in terms of registered refugees and the monitoring mechanisms by the department, as well as your engagements with regard to the impact of foreign nationals on service delivery. However, Minister, recently there has arisen tensions in Soweto between South African nationals and foreign nationals in relation to a campaign called Dudula, which is designed to evict illegal immigrants. Minister, what is the role in the what role is the department playing to mitigate victimization of foreign nationals while also managing the untenable situation created by illegal immigrants? Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Minister.
Honorable Member, the operation you are talking about is an illegal operation, if I'm not mistaken. It is people taking the law in their own hands, and you are aware that when people do that, it's a matter that police must deal with. It's a matter of subs. In our case, in Home Affairs, the only uniformed person we have got is an immigration official who will go only to investigate immigration transgressions, not issues of South Africans taking the law in their own hands. That matter, the police are actually dealing with. But on the other hand, in operations like Ukai Mulao, when police go out to look for criminals and all that, the immigration officials join them. And wherever they encounter people who are not documented, they then send them over to Home Affairs. They arrest them, and the law says you must arrest them for 48 hours, meaning within 48 hours they must appear in front of a magistrate who will confirm that that person needs to be deported. In that case, when the magistrate has endorsed that, the person is sent to Lindela Repatriation Center. And in Lindela, we then try to find out where the person is coming from, and we call the ambassador from that country where the person originated, and the ambassador must identify that person, and we discuss with them the modalities of deportation. This is where Home Affairs come in. So we joined operations like those, but if police are alone, they were not in any operation with Home Affairs officials. If they equally encounter somebody who's undocumented, they hand them over to Home Affairs, and we follow the similar process, which I've just outlined. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. The next supplementary question is the second supplementary question from Honorable B.T. Matebula. Honorable Matebula.
Chairperson, it's Mokause. I'll be taking that question on behalf of the party. Minister, when you are in the Department of Health, you once made an extremely reckless statement that public health is collapsing because of the influx of African nationals to South Africa. Now, that is not an insult to you. Today, as a Minister of Home Affairs, your department is leading efforts to frustrate African nationals who are in this country, which feeds, your department feeds on the xenophobic statement of South Africa. Is it your department's policy to be a state sponsor of xenophobia against African nationals? If not, why is it so difficult for African nationals to acquire legal documents, those who are eligible to stay in this country? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Honorable Member, I never made any reckless statement when I was in the Department of Health. I made a statement based on facts. It was not reckless, it was facts, which was obtained from hospitals. Having said so, the department has got no policy to sponsor xenophobia, as you're saying, Honorable Member. And as you yourself have said at the end of your sentence, people who are eligible. We do not know any person who is eligible for documentation in South Africa where we have refused them with documentation. Anybody who come across them, if they are eligible, we try our best to give them documentation. Now, the word eligibility means there are many, of course, who are not eligible. In other words, who do not deserve to get papers. I've just outlined to you here the United Nations Convention of 1951. It is not the Department of Home Affairs who came with that convention. It is the United Nations, which said people can only be given refugee status if they come from a country where there is war, if they are running away from natural disasters, if they are being persecuted for their political stance and activities, for their religious activities, for their cultural activities, and for sexual orientation. So when a person comes into South Africa and arrives at the Refugee Reception Center and announces that they are refugees and mention one of these facts, they meet a person called RSDO, the Refugee Status Determination Officer. If the Refugee Status Determination Officer finds that these facts are not true, then they are not going to allow that person to get any documentation because the person is not legible. And they don't push words into the mouth of that person. The people themselves come and say, I'm here, I'm an asylum seeker, I want refugee status. This is my facts, I've come from a country, I'm being persecuted. If the Refugee Status Determination Officer finds that it's not true, what should they do? They can't issue any documentation. So it is true that we give documentation only to people who are eligible, but we are not sponsoring any xenophobia. There is no evidence of that whatsoever. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. We now move to the third supplementary question from Honorable I.M. Sileku. Honorable Sileku.
Ndibulele sihlalo, ndibulele nakumphathiswa. Minister, you rightfully mentioned the IMC, which was established by the President in 2020. What I would like to know, Minister, what measures have been put in place by Home Affairs regarding immigration and labor? Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister.
Hey, Honorable Chairperson, I don't really understand this question. What measures did Home Affairs put up regarding immigration and labor? Can you?
I'll ask Honorable Sileku to repeat the question again. Honorable Sileku.
Rather than explain further rather than just repeating it, because I don't understand what he's trying to say.
Minister, I think when the IMC was established, there were certain issues that the IMC had to look at.
Yes.
And specifically when it came to immigration and labor. So what I'm trying to get at, what measures has Home Affairs put in place to deal with those two issues? Thank you very much.
Oh, no, thank you. Now I understand. No, you are right. As I said, that Inter-Ministerial Committee is dealing with the labor market, the job market, business opportunities, social services, etc. Now, one of the first things that the committee looked at was the issue of quota. You may remember that as noise started reaching crescendo in the country about jobs between foreign nationals and nationals. If you remember that, the Minister of Finance himself during a budget speech mentioned that it will be better if there are quotas, for instance, in the hospitality industry. There are lots of complaints that when you go there, you find that 100% of the people who work there are not South Africans, 100%. And you are saying, we are not saying non-South Africans shouldn't work, but there should be quotas, maybe 40, 60 or so. In the trucking industry, the same thing is happening. Now, what we discovered in the Inter-Ministerial Committee, which we were told as Home Affairs, was that legally, there's no law in the country that provides for such quotas. The only law that exists is if somebody comes from outside the country to establish a factory, an industry of some sort, he is allowed to bring 40% of the staff from outside the country, from maybe the country where they originate from. But 60% must be the staff that is raised locally here in South Africa. But if it's a South African business who is just hiring, he can hire 100% foreign nationals and nothing can be done to that person if those nationals are documented, by the way. So when Home Affairs or Department of Labor visit, they can only deal with those who are not documented. Those who are documented, they can do nothing. So the committee then subsequently realized that there is a legal gap here. We have asked experts to sit down and look at the legislation to find out if we can't develop the legislation on quotas, and that is ongoing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. The last supplementary question comes from Honorable Ngwezi. Honorable Ngwezi. The last supplementary question comes from Honorable Ngwezi. This is the fourth supplementary question. Honorable Ngwezi.
Not in the House, Chair.
Honorable Ngwezi is not there. We'll proceed to question 147. This question is on operationalization of national identity system. This question comes from Honorable Sleku and is directed to the Minister of Home Affairs. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. The National Identity System, or NIS, is truly going to bring a new order, a new dawn in South Africa in as far as identification is concerned, and we are looking forward to having that system as quick as possible. At the present moment, Chairperson, we have got 3 databases in as far as identity is concerned, 3 disparate databases in Home Affairs. The first database is called NPR, or the National Population Register. The National Population Register will register South Africans. There are those who took birth certificates, those who took IDs, those who got married, those who died. All of them, you'll find them on the National Population Register. Now, there is another system which is separate from the National Population Register. It is called the NIIS, the National Immigration Information System, NIIS. Now, this one registered only immigrants or foreign nationals who come into the country. Unfortunately, Chairperson, it does not register their death, it does not register their marriage, and it's a very serious weak point which we need to correct. The last system is called VAS, VAS. That's the Visa Adjudication System that registered short-term visitors to the Republic of South Africa, like tourists, people who are on business visas or who are on study visas, etc. Now, the NIS, or National Identification System, is going to bring up all these systems together under one roof, under one system called NIS. Now, where are we with that system? The first thing that we needed to do, Chairperson, as a precursor, was to get a correct biometric system. At the present moment, the biometric system that is in use is called HANIS, Home Affairs Identification System. That system has got only 2 biometrics. It's your fingerprint and your photo. Now, in this modern era of technology, identifying people only through the fingerprint and the photo might not be enough, and that's one of the things that increases corruption in Home Affairs. Now, we have decided to leave HANIS, move to a new system, which is called ABIS, Automated Biometric Identification System. It has got 5 biometrics. It can have your fingerprint, it can store it, it can store your palm print, it can recognize your iris, the iris in the eye, it can recognize that it's you, it's not somebody else. It can do facial recognition, and it can do a heel print for a newborn baby. You are aware that we don't take fingerprints from babies because it's not possible. But ABIS will allow us to take their heel prints. Now, in order to do this, we needed a service provider. As provided for in the laws, because it's an IT system, we are not allowed to acquire our own IT systems. We've got to acquire them through CETA. CETA then went on to acquire this system, and they found a company called EOH. When the Auditor General was auditing CETA, he flagged this company very seriously and instructed us in Home Affairs to put a forensic audit on this country because the Auditor General was not happy. We did that, and it took for the whole year. Last month, Chairperson, I presented the results of this audit, this forensic audit to the National Assembly, to the Portfolio Committee, and people are being charged for that. There's been a mess that was caused by EOH after it has been acquired. So we have now ceded this contract to a new company. We have signed agreements through Treasury, and that company is going to deliver ABIS in December this year. Once we have got ABIS, then we'll migrate all South Africans who are on HANIS onto the ABIS system. And once they are migrated, we then start implementing NIS so that all South Africans within the borders of this country are on one database, which is called NIS. So this is where we are, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary question is from Honorable I.M. Sileku. Honorable Sileku.
Honorable Chair, thank you very much. Minister, thank you very much for that update. Minister, this project was supposed to have been operational in 2019-20. And there's been a lot of media reports, and based on your answer as well, that there was irregularities in terms of the procurement of this particular system. So can the minister just tell us as the NCOP, how many people that are going to be accountable for the failure of this particular project not to have been operational in the time that was given by Home Affairs? And how many people in the department are responsible for making sure that they award the contract, to a company that irregularly, because that's the issues that we are confronted with. There's always officials within the department is either connected to politicians that they just go the short route instead of following the right procedure and processes. As a result, that takes us back in terms of delivering services, of taking this particular department to the next level. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sileku. Honorable Minister.
Chairperson, as I've said, to implement this ABIS is an IT system. In terms of the rules, you need State Information Technology Agency, which is SITA, to issue a tender and procure this system and give it to Home Affairs, which will pay. And that is what happened. SITA did that, and they procured for us a company called EOH, which started this work. Now, the Auditor General was auditing SITA, not Home Affairs. The Auditor General Office was auditing SITA. When they flagged this, they then said because the money to pay for it will come from Home Affairs, because SITA is doing it for Home Affairs. It is Home Affairs that must institute a forensic audit to investigate. Now, in SITA procuring this system, obviously they liaise with officials in the Department of Home Affairs. And this is what happened. Now, the forensic audit was identifying within SITA and within Home Affairs and within this company who played a particular role. Unfortunately, I don't have the facts here in terms of the numbers. But as I said, this report, we've presented it. In fact, we called the forensic auditors to present it to the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs in the National Assembly, where we actually have got numbers there that some people are being charged as per recommendation. Some are going through DC. Others have been reported to the Hawks because they've been involved in criminal activities. And the EOH as a company, we are still involved in a court case with them about some of the payments which were not supposed, which could not be done because they did not keep their side of the bargain. So a lot of work is still being done. A lot of charges have been, many people have been charged. Others are going through DC. And the recommendation was that SITA must charge each own officials who were involved. And those who are involved in Home Affairs are being charged by us. And SITA also promised the National Assembly that they will actually do that. And that's why the delay is, because this forensic audit took the whole year to be completed because it was a lot of work on the number of people who have to be interviewed. That is why the project delayed. But we want it as of yesterday, Chairperson, because it will help a lot of things in Home Affairs in terms of identification. It will bring, it will reduce, markedly reduce issues of fraud, which I've just mentioned here, because then we'll be having a good system that is able to help us in that. So we are really eagerly wanting this system to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And the second supplementary question will come from Honorable De Bruin. Honorable De Bruin.
Thank you, Chairperson and Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, what effect does the insufficient connectivity and IT support have on the national identity system? And are there adequate funding available to finalize the national identity system? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Because we don't have a national identity system yet, it will be difficult to tell what the issues of connectivity, what effect do they have on the national identity system, because we do not have it. It's what I'm outlining is progress towards establishing it. And yes, of course, it has been, the budget has been drawn. The AB system, which I was talking about, a fund of 409 million was put aside to fund this issue of ABs, which I've just mentioned. Yes, we definitely are budgeting for the NIS and the AB system, because once we have got the ABs, the department will find itself in a new era, definitely. But I cannot tell about the connectivity with NIS because we don't have NIS yet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. The third supplementary question comes from Honorable Arnold. Honorable Arnold.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll take the question on behalf of the party.
Please proceed.
Minister, you'll agree with us when we say the failure of this project led by dodgy contractors impacts directly on the provision of service to South Africa. Have your department and SEDA, after these irregularities were flagged, came to a conclusion to recommend any blacklisting to such companies? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
On our side as Home Affairs, we certainly will not engage such companies again, no ways. And that decision we have really made in a meeting. But as to whether they will be blacklisted, that will depend on National Treasury. And National Treasury was engaged with us on seating this to a different company, because we had to get permission from the National Treasury. So we had to give them all the facts why we want this contract ceded to a different company. And so Treasury is aware, and we think they'll go on with the work of blacklisting. But on our side as Home Affairs, you cannot use for the second time a company that has caused a mess like this. Absolutely not. And that I can assure you of. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question, which is the fourth and the last supplementary question, comes from Honorable T.S.C. Todov. Honorable Todov.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for your responses to the questions. Let me express our vote of confidence to you, Honorable Minister, that you are doing your job competently, professionally, and to the best of your ability. You must never be deterred by those who always pander to populism in terms of attacking your credibility and your good work. Having said that, I just want to check with you, Honorable Minister, what causes the delays in terms of the implementation, of this new system that you're talking about, and what is it that the department is doing to fast-track the implementation of that particular system? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Todovo, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. As I said, Honorable Member, this was very unfortunate that the CETA awarded this contract to EOH, irregularly so, which was picked by the Auditor General and confirmed by the forensic audit, which took a year. That in itself is a big, big delay. That we have got to go on for the whole year, not doing work, but conducting a forensic audit. That is very, very unfortunate. Now we had to start work of sitting to a new company. That in itself is a procedure that wastes time. And we had to wait for a long time while Treasury was still looking into this issue when we were asking them to give us permission to sit. Thereafter, in order to mitigate the problem, Honorable Dodovu, we sat down and developed memorandum of understanding with the new company and about the deadlines. And that's why they promised us that the deadline will be, will be December 2021. We are hoping that there will be no other problems that are intervening for us to be able to move very fast. And you are right, Chairperson. We are very bitter, I must say to you, because if we had this system long ago, many of the problems that we are experiencing in Home Affairs, especially when it comes to fraud, fraudulent IDs or people misidentifying themselves, when you have got so many biometrics like iris recognition, facial recognition, all those are very important to identify people, will be in a better position, but it has been delayed by these issues of corruption, which, as I said, has been very unfortunate. And that's where our bitterness emerges from. But anyway, we have put it aside, we are continuing, and we are hoping by December 2021, we'll have ABs delivered to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Honorable members, we have now come to the end of the questions to the Minister of Home Affairs. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Minister for availing himself to answer the question. I now hand over to
thank you, Minister.
Honorable Ngwenya, who will take over and chair the next part of our work. Honorable Ngwenya.
Thanks very much, Chairperson. And good morning, honorable members. We are now continuing with the international relation and cooperation. The Deputy Minister, Mashigo Dlamini, will respond to the questions. I have been informed that the Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation will respond to questions. I now call the Honorable Deputy Minister to respond to question number 158, asked by Honorable M. Dango. Remember, Deputy Minister, you've got 5 minutes per person to question. Honorable Minister. Deputy Minister, please come in.
Thank you very much.
Malibongwe.
Thank you very much,
Malibong.
Chairperson. Our response to the question of the honorable member is that the government the government of South Africa has issued a media statement on the 8th and the 14th May 2021, condemning Israel to its unjust attack on civilians in Gaza and Jerusalem. In addition, the government used its permanent representative to the United Nations during the United Nations Security Council video teleconference open debate on the 16th of May this year, during a visual meeting on the situation in the Middle East to express its view regarding the Israel attack, and recommended that the issue be forwarded to the UN General Assembly for consideration should the UN Security Council be unable to act. Furthermore, the government, in conjunction with the Namibian government, State of Palestine, supported by the Nelson Mandela Foundation, participated in a virtual meeting on the importance of upholding the principle of self-determination and non-discrimination, justice for the Palestinian people on the 8th June 2021. South Africa supports the recent adoption of the UN Human Rights Council resolution, which establishes an international commission of inquiry to investigate violation in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem and in Israel. It is therefore our sincere hope that the Independent Commission of Inquiry
will be established will all do has to investigate all violation and abuses, and that the necessary action will be taken to follow up on the Commission's finding. The department will communicate any further action still under consideration. I thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Deputy Minister. Honorable Tango, follow-up question.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, has the South African government considered taking drastic steps such as boycotting Israeli companies and their products in solidarity with the Palestinian people? Further, Chairperson, have we considered taking these issues to the ICC, as these are clearly war crimes by an occupier on occupied territory? I thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. Of course, on the issue of boycotting products of coming from Israel, there's no plan around that. But on the issue of handing over the matter to the ICC, as South Africa, we really support that. If the Security Council fails and the UN, definitely they must hand over this matter to the ICC so that the ICC must really take its course. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks, Deputy Minister. The follow-up question, it's Honorable MSH Boshoff.
Thank you very much, House Chair, and good morning to you, Deputy Minister. In light of your response to the original question, I would like to know then, as a resident of the African continent and South Africa supposedly being a leader, why has the same approach not been followed in dealing with conflicts in the African continent, for example, Ethiopia? Thank you, House Chair.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, I don't think the situation in Ethiopia and the situation in Palestine is the same. And I think the honorable member must understand that what is experienced by Palestine is something that we experience in South Africa as an apartheid regime, from the apartheid regime. So now what is happening in Ethiopia is not similar. So we can't use the similar strategy, and you can't propose the same issues. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks very much, Deputy Minister. The third follow-up question, Honorable Mr. K. Mutamai. Honorable Mutamai.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, ANC not suspend the ambassador of the apartheid racist Zionist Israel from South Africa.
Chairperson.
Deputy Minister, can you please respond? I can't hear him.
I didn't hear the first, because I only hear when he says the ANC can suspend.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think he can repeat. I'm sorry about that.
Thanks, Deputy Minister. Honorable Mzamai, can you please respond to your follow-up question? Repeat your follow-up question, Honorable Mzamai.
Thank you, Chairperson. And thank you, Honorable Minister. I said, why has South African government led by the ANC not suspend the ambassador of the apartheid racist Zionist Israel from South Africa? I thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Member.
Very much, Chairperson. Of course, we are a country, and we are in solidarity with the Palestinian, and we didn't reach that particular level up to so far. We are handling our solidarity on the issues that I have raised now. We didn't reach that particular level. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Deputy Minister. The next follow-up question, the fourth one, is Honorable Mr. S.F. Dedoit. Honorable Dedoit.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Dedoit.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Minister, Defence Web reported on December 2016 that Iran and South Africa strengthened defence ties, and the Iranian Defence Minister, Brigadier General Hossein Degan, and his South African counterpart, Mapisa Nkakula, signed a memorandum of understanding on defence cooperation between Iran and South Africa. And it is no secret that Iran is one of the arms suppliers to Gaza. One similarity between the ANC and the Hamas in Gaza is that they hide behind children to get international sympathy during a confrontation. Israel has the right to defend itself and its citizens against attacks. More than 4,000 rockets were fired from Gaza to Israel. Minister, my question, according to your knowledge, are there any other memorandums of understanding between South Africa and Palestine in place that contributes to supporting Iran or Palestine in their own actions that result in killing of innocent women and children? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Member. Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm not very sure because when I was preparing for these answers, I never even interacted with all the departments. But I just want to say to the member that the fight is between Israel and Palestine, and whatever cooperation that any country have with any one of them, we need not to assume that they are doing that because they want to reinforce the others to really oppress the others. I don't think the cooperation is on that. I know Israel has got a good cooperation with America, as much as we're asking America that they must intervene and sit down with Israel on the issues that is happening. We cannot say United States of America are the ones that are supporting Israel to fight. So these are the fights, but other countries are really there to do cooperation on different issues. I'm not aware of really our interaction with our defense with Palestine. I'm not aware of that. I can't answer that, but that question can go to the Minister of Defense. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks very much, Deputy Minister. The next question, Deputy Minister, is question 145, asked by Honorable Mr. J.J. Lotz from DA. Question 145, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Well, the matter that the honorable member is raising, these are matters that are very important to the President of South Africa, which he raises in the engagement with the countries on the continent all the time, supported by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, of course. As appropriate, the President has done so sincere in assuming the chairship of the African Union in 2020, working to champion the needs of the continent on the basis of the challenges African countries face in obtaining equal access to effective and affordable vaccine and to deal with the socio-economic impact of the pandemic. The President continues to engage the countries on the continent on these issues in his capacity as the African Union champion on COVID-19. Furthermore, the President regularly engages with the African Center for Disease Control. It is in this context that the announcement was made recently that Kenya, Senegal, and South Africa are ready to finalize preparation for rolling out the manufacturing of vaccines. Central to all of this engagement is the sharing of experiences in rolling out vaccine program, with the common thread being the challenges faced and the lessons learned in preparing for the post-pandemic era. This engagement also informs South Africa's own approach and experience on these important matters. I thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Deputy Minister. The follow-up question asked by Mr. J.J. Lords.
Thank you, Chairperson. Our Chairperson, and morning, Deputy Minister. I am glad that you did touch on the fact that we have taken up the African Union presidency seat, and also that we are focusing on the post-COVID period. Now, one of the highest priorities for any country across the world is to tap into the potential of this post-pandemic economic boom. And one of the reasons, or one of the main factors to tap into that, is to get our citizens vaccinated. Now, as you said, South Africa is supposed to be one of the leaders on the African continent, yet we are unable to get a proper vaccination rollout going in our country. That means we will not be able to tap into this post-pandemic economic boom, with investors and company being afraid to come to South Africa because they're putting their workers at risk. Some countries in the rest of the continent have shown significant progress in this rollout. Now, has the Minister, or yourself as the Deputy Minister and the Department, sought advice from countries like Morocco, Equatorial Guinea, or even our northern neighbor Zimbabwe on how to get the ball rolling, since it doesn't seem that this South African government is able to step up on its own, protect its citizens firstly, and then ensuring that we are equipped and ready to tap into this post-pandemic economic boom that is expected? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member. Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, I just want to indicate to the Honorable Member that President Ramaphosa has established the African Vaccine Acquisition Task Team, but on the 13th of January 2021, that task team reported to a special bureau meeting that they have secured a provision of 270 million vaccine doses for African countries, with at least 50 million being available for the crucial period of April to June 2021. So my feeling is that as the country, we are really doing our best. The issue of vaccination for African countries and even for the least developed countries, we are dealing with that, but through the African Union, as the member is quite aware that our President Ramaphosa, has been appointed this February this year as a champion for the vaccines securing. So I think that is the issue that really we need really to recognize. I'm aware that everybody needed to be vaccinated, but it is properly coordinated in the African Union. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. The second follow-up question is going to ask by Honorable Mr. E.M. Teto. Nyambos.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your respond, and I take note that you have also mentioned that the country is doing its best in terms of this. But Minister, with respect to the African continent, there are more specifically any of the talks with other countries in the continent, particularly in the SADC region, in terms of establishing uniformity and joint vaccine producing facilities in dealing with this pandemic in order to reduce the reliance on the foreign countries. And also, Minister, ikakhulu nalamakhambi lekuvela ukuthi akhona ayatholakala eAfrica, wona ke singenza kanjani nawo usuwabone attestwa abuye asebenza la eAfrica, singakholelwa kakhulu phesheya. Ngiyabonga, Minister.
Thanks very much, Babu Nyambose. Minister?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable Member Nyambos, I think I have indicated that there are only 3 countries in Africa that are producing vaccines. They are ready and to roll out the production, the manufacturing of the vaccines. But then for any other countries to come in this situation, there's an issue that is very preventing other countries really to participate in the production of vaccine. That is why South Africa, together with the government of India, they've made a proposal, they've tendered a proposal for the World Trade Organization to really put a waiver on the intellectual property right, so that countries can be free to really produce whatever equipment or medication that will really elevate the COVID-19 as it stands now. So the waiver is really propagated to the whole world so that people must really respond, and the World Trade Organization must really create that waiver so that whatever equipment that is relevant for COVID-19 can be produced by any other country in the world. And also there must be an exchange of skills and technology so that we all in Africa access the vaccine and access all the health equipment that will help us to elevate the COVID-19. So now, I think that's the main issue that is now on the go in the world now, that we are trying our best as South Africa and India to make sure and to convince the World Trade Organization to really create that waiver on that intellectual property. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. The third follow-up question is going to ask by Honorable Mr. A. Arnold, EFF. Arnold? Honorable Arnold?
Thank you, House Chairperson. I'm going to take the question on behalf of the party. Deputy Minister, South Africa's COVID vaccine rollout is non-existent, and that's the reality. That is why, as a party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, we have taken it upon ourselves on the 25th and onwards to go and force government to purchase vaccines from other countries for ordinary South Africans and frontliners. We are behind countries such as Zimbabwe and many other countries, whilst we have the highest infections in the entire continent. To what extent has this dismal failure by government to protect its own citizens affect the country's stature in the continent and the world? Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Member. Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think the Honorable Member, is going to take this question to the Department of Health. We are not the practitioners in that regard. We are really the coordinators with the world and the country. We are not implementing the vaccination per se. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Deputy Minister. The next follow-up question is Honorable Mr. A. Debrain. Honorable Debrain.
I'm rising on a point of order. Chairperson, I'm rising on a point of order.
Okay.
There are 2 sets of questions here if the minister, the deputy minister have listened well. To what extent does this dismal failure by government affect the stature of this country, both in the continent and the world? The other part, yes, you can have maneuvered and say, I can take it to the Department of Health, that we accept, but they are, it's one and the same question. So can you answer the question, Deputy Minister? You are here to respond.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Minister, you can ask the question or you don't ask the question.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Honorable Member definitely has just unpacked, but I don't see the dismal failure. So that's my issue. So for me, I see my government really trying its best to deal with the issue of vaccination like any other country in Africa and in the world. So I don't see that dismal fail. So
That is
that's
the problem. You do not see that you are failing.
Okay, thanks very much, honorable member.
Order,
The
order,
next-
Honorable Lord.
No, comrade. Honorable members, order. Honorable Minister, thanks very much for the response. The next follow-up question, the fourth one, is Honorable Mr. MAPD Brain.
Thank you, House Chairperson and Honorable Minister. With regard to the fact that China was in South Africa at the beginning of the pandemic, the Guardian explained to South Africa the seriousness and the effects of the virus. Why did South Africa wait until December to order the vaccines when the seriousness of the virus was clearly stated more than a year ago? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. That's the question that must be asked to the Department of Health. We're not dealing with ordering as the department. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deputy Minister. The next question, Deputy Minister, is question 159, asked by Honorable MSM Bartlett. Question 159.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Well, the main obstacles to realizing of a transformation and progress globally, global government system, particularly at the United Nations Security Council, are due to the increasing pushback by certain powers against progressive forces promoting collective action, international solidarity, and cooperation in efforts to reform the global governance system. There has been a re-emergence of nationalism, unilateralism, action, and geopolitical tension, resulting in a weakening multilateral system, which has also been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic and the rising inequalities. This is especially true as there is a growing challenge to the effectiveness and legitimacy of the United Security Council as the primary international organs mandated to promote international peace and security. It is essential that the Council remain true to its mandate and move beyond the paralysis brought on by the geopolitical interest of a few member states. As events of the past few years have demonstrated, the current composition and functioning of the Security Council, specifically use of the veto, have resulted in the deadlock between the 5 permanent members on the Council, rendering the Council unable to respond to global crisis. Ultimately, the division amongst the dynamic of the 5 members affected the Council legitimacy, thus stressing the need for reform. Although the debate on the reform of the United Nations in particular has started almost 20 years ago, we are looking forward to the implementation of the Ezulwini resolution that the African Union has undertaken, which proposed that we needed to really have 2 members, permanent 2 members from the African countries, and also 5 non-permanent members. But then you're quite aware that, Chairperson, there's the G4 also sitting in the United Nations Security Council. They've got their other proposal as well, which they said they are looking forward for the Africa to be represented by 5 non-permanent members, which is not an agreement with the African countries. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks very much, Deputy Minister. The first follow-up question is asked by Honorable MSB Bartlett, ANC. Honorable Bartlett.
Can you hear me, Chair? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Honorable Minister, and thanks for your responses. As our government considered making representations to the United Nations to adopt institutionalizing structure and operations of the Security Council, do we adequately respond to these conflicts? And Honorable Minister, will you be able to uniformly and without favor do this for us? Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Thanks,
Thank
Chair.
you, Honorable Member. Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Of course, Honorable Member, you're quite correct. We are making our input as African countries. We're quite aware that we have been in the Security Council for some times now, as we have ended our participation. But through other African countries, we are really trying our best to influence the implementation of a Zuluini agreement as it has stand now. So we are looking forward for the response from the Security Council. But this debate is going on and on, as you're quite aware that it's almost 20 years that the reform of the Security Council has been debated in the United Nations. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Deputy Minister. The second follow-up question is going to ask by Honorable MSC Labuskachen. DA.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, Deputy Minister. The African Group of Nations has 3 seats on the Security Council. In recent years, South Africa has failed to secure AU Commission positions, and we don't have the continental leadership status we had a decade ago. If in the unlikely event that the Security Council is reformed and the AU gets a permanent seat, how can we expect that South Africa will have the same influence it currently has contending as a sovereign nation and a candidate of the A3? Part of the objection of the current composition of the Security Council is the veto right that permanent members have. These members are often accused of using their veto right to protect allies guilty of human rights abuses. We know that there are several countries on the African continent, as elsewhere in the world, with a questionable track record in human rights. Honorable Deputy Minister, how will we ensure that, should such a permanent seat be granted, whoever holds the AU position will not also use the veto to protect human rights abusers on our continent?
Thanks, Honorable Member. Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The Zuluini decision is a decision of the African Union. So any member state coming from the African Union, if secured any seat, whether permanent or non-permanent seat, I think they are going really to echo all the issues that African are really keen to discuss. The member is quite aware that in the Security Council, about 80% of the issues and the conflict that they are discussing in the Security Council, they are from the African continent. Most of them are from the African continent. But in terms of representation and also bringing sense to the Security Council by Africans discussing their own problems from Africa and also putting the solutions that will fit the African community. So it is lacking. As you're quite aware that the Security Council of the United Nations, it has been there in this form for almost 70 years. So this transformation is really needed because the African continent is not really fairly represented. So I hope that whoever is getting a seat, whether permanent or non-permanent from the Africa, then those people are going to really represent the sentiment of the Africans. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks, Deputy Minister. The third follow-up question is going to ask by Honorable Mr. X Ngwezi, IFP. Honorable Ngwezi.
Ngiyakhuleka Mntemande, ngibingelele kuyisakela likaNgqongqoshe. Ngicela ukubuza ukuthi-ke ngakube uhulumeni genuinely believes in the possibility of transformation of the United Nations Security Council to include a seat for Africa. And if so, what is the basis of that belief? And what has the government done to realize the objective? Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Member. Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Well, we as South Africa, we believe that we needed to be represented in the Security Council as one member of the African Union. The African Union had a conference and they took a resolution that they demand that we need to get fair representation as Africa in the Security Council of the United Nations. Now, our proposal of the African Union is that we demand that we need to have 2 African representation as permanent members with veto powers, and also 5 African members as non-permanent members in the Security Council. So the discussion is going on. So now other countries, like sitting in the Security Council, we've got the African Union, we've got also the countries that are called the G4 countries. The G4 countries are proposing that they need to have, not ready to put any African country to have a veto power, but to be represented as non-permanent members, which is the debate where we stand now. The decision is not yet there, but Africans want 5 non-permanent members and 2 permanent members with veto powers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. The 4th follow-up question is going to ask by Honorable MSSB Lehihi, EFF.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll take the question on behalf of the EFF. Deputy Minister, Africa is unable to present a united front on the demand for a permanent seat in the Security Council. This is because of the divisions within the continent that emanates from our colonial past. The role of France in African affairs is particularly concerning. What is the country's attitude towards the destructive role played by France in African affairs, taking into account the presence of thousands and thousands of soldiers in the continent and the fact that they still control politics and decision of their former colonies? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Of course, the Honorable Member is quite correct. We still have got countries in Africa that are still colonized, and those countries are still really battling to go out from the colonization that they have. And France, as he is indicating now, has colonized a number of countries. And now those countries definitely are almost not really on the same posture with the African continent because of dealing with issues that are sitting with their colonizers. So, but as South Africa, we're trying our best that the African Union needs to be respected, whether you are colonized or not colonized, but you need to respect the organization that is representing all of us. And we need to also implement the decision and the resolution that are taken in those forums. So now we are looking forward to that this debate of the transformation of the Security Council in the United Nations, it will continue, but definitely that's the difficulties that we are having as African countries. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Deputy Minister. Before we continue with question 142, I would like to invite Honorable Nyambe, the House Chairperson. Honorable Nyambe, can you please take over on 142 question asked by Honorable Ngwezi?
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
No, it's fine. You can continue, TM.
It's fine. Thank you. You can continue.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The fourth standalone meeting of Brics Ministers of Foreign Affairs or International Relations held on the 1st of June, 2021, exchanged views on the response to the COVID-19 pandemic, sustainable development, reforms of the multilateral system, global and regional peace and security, and intra-Brics cooperation. The ministers reaffirmed their commitment to the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in its three dimensions: economic, social, and environmental. The ministers also reaffirmed their commitment to implement the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and its Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement. The Brics Ministers of Foreign Affairs, International Relations did not address the impact of energy need, supply constraint, nor energy cooperation between Brics members. However, in October 2020, the Brics Ministers of Energy adopted the roadmap for Brics energy cooperation up to the year 2025. As part of this roadmap, Brics member states will identify the needs and challenges they face in ensuring energy security and developing their energy industries and determine areas for deepening intra-Brics cooperation in this regard. South Africa is committed to building back better and greener in the post-pandemic economic recovery. In that regard, the new Development Bank of Brics is funding 5 South African projects worth around $1.4 billion to the IDC, DBSA, and ESCOM to support renewable energy and environmental protection projects to address South African energy security and sustainability. The department has not been informed of any Brics meeting or global commitment which have been negatively affected by power cuts or South Africa's energy supply constraint. The department and all Brics stakeholders continue to participate